For this video, we're gonna go over the squat pattern. Again, one of our major movement patterns, but different from the hinge where the goal was posterior weight shift, prioritizing the hips and the hamstrings. The squat is gonna be a more upright movement pattern, and we're gonna use our quads much more as well as our glutes and hamstrings with the motion, okay? Corinne's gonna use a dumbbell to demo a goblet squat. You can just as easily use a kettlebell for this. For the setup, she's gonna pick it up, hold it in front of her chest. As you see, she's got her palms under the dumbbell, elbows are down, and her chest is tall, so she's in a good starting position. As she squats down, we're gonna have a good stance width. It's maybe just outside shoulder width to start. Toes are turned out a little bit, and she's gonna sit straight down between her knees. Good. Do one more for us. Awesome. So you can set that down. A couple of the common things that we see go wrong with the squat is, one, knees tend to cave in on the way down, or two, people initiate the squat with excessive lumbar hyperextension, which tends to cause them to compensate by rocking back under their heels or having a sort of butt wank or posterior tilt to the back at the bottom of the squat, okay? What we can do to work on this is give a couple of good cues, right? Our first cue for working on the knees caving in would be to think about trying to corkscrew your feet into the ground. So if you think about that, your foot's in contact with the ground, we're gonna think of driving out, creating a little bit of tension, and it should cause your knees to travel outward over your toes. So Corinne's gonna show us first what it looks like to have a little bit of a knee cave in on a squat. Good. And then she's gonna think about corkscrewing out into the ground and having her knees travel out over her toes, and you see we get a nice, better position here, okay? The second thing that we see, and Corinne's gonna show us from the side, is people substituting with lumbar hyperextension to start the movement. So on the way back, their hips shoot back a little bit first, right? And then if we go a little bit more exaggerated, she's gonna really push her hips back at the bottom, butt tends to tuck back under, and we kind of get out of position there, okay? With this, what I see a lot of times is that people think that they have to push their hips too far back on the start of the squat, more like what you would do in a deadlift, but instead what we want to think about is having a nice vertical position, especially for a goblet squat, and think of sitting between your knees versus back behind them. And as you see there, hips still move back a little bit, it's not excessive, and she's able to stay in a good position the whole time, okay? If you're struggling to find an ideal foot width for your squat, an easy way to work on this and kind of troubleshoot what might be right for you is we can grab some sort of counterbalance, like a 5 or a 10-pound plate, and what we're gonna do is we're gonna hold it out in front, and we're just gonna play with a couple squat widths. So Corinne's gonna take this, and first we're gonna start with about a hip width, toes forward stance. And you're gonna squat down as low as you can here. Good, go ahead. Okay, show us from the side now. Good. Secondly, she's gonna take an outside of shoulder width wide stance with toes turned out, and we're gonna do the same thing. So as you're doing this, what we're trying to find is not necessarily just the deepest squat that she can get into, but the deepest squat that you can get into without compensation. That's gonna give you the best bang for your buck and give you the best training effect. So as we look from the side, good. So we see Corinne has pretty good mobility. Both squats don't look too bad. It seems like for her though, to avoid compensation and excessively kind of shooting her hips back, a little bit of a wider stance works for her. Maybe a narrow stance works for you, but doing this drill will help you figure it out.